So, we get to it. We have our very first panel. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, I'm super happy and just overwhelmed to see you all here, to have my very first frog experience with you guys. We have our fellow enthusiasts of financial empowerment here, our distinguished guests. I'm looking at you in the front row. Today, fun meets finance. We embark on a journey and unlock the mysteries of fostering financial and economic literacy through the engaging world of play and games. We'll discover how interactive experiences are writing or rewriting the rules of financial education. From games that transform complex concepts into captivating adventures and empower learners of really all ages. Join us as we delve into these innovative realms where coins, cards, and code come together. And for this panel, I'm so happy. We will broaden our horizons together with 3 guests we have today. First, a kind shout out also to the live stream, and a little bit of for the good and speedy recovery of Theresa Graf, because she can't be with us today, so maybe a little applause for her to get better soon. But it is my honor to welcome our guests that are present today. And the first one is Karina Kaiser-Fallent from the Federal Chancellery of Austria, the Federal Office for the Positive Assessment of Digital Games. Applause. Next up, we have Joerg Hofstaetter, the CEO of Ovos Media. As well as last but not least, joining me on my couch, Sonja Gabriel from the GmbH Wien Krems. This is in English the University College of Teachers Education in Vienna and Krems. So we have our little couch setting here, and we have the microphones, so maybe you two can share one or you can distribute one, just how you like it. Maybe we start with a little introduction of yourselves, so we get to know each other better. Is it on? It should be on.
Okay. So, a test, is it on? No. Is it?
Now it is on.
Okay. So my name is Sonja Gabriel. As you've already heard, I work as a teacher educator, but also a researcher. So at our university, we educate future teachers, but also in-service teachers. And games have been part of my teaching and researching career for more than 10 years now. So I think it's nearly 15 years, time is flying. And I always have a look at how can games help to teach, to train young learners, but also adults.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Karina Kaiser-Fallent. I work in the Department of Youth of the Federal Chancellery of Austria. I'm not used to talking English that much, but I will try. I work as the head of BuPP. I don't know if you know it. We are situated in the Kinderzone with our Messestand. And there you can find good games for children. We are making game recommendations for young children, that games that make fun and have some pedagogical value. And we also have a website where we publish these games, like www.bupp.at. But you can also have a visit to our location in the Kinderzone. Yes, and I also I work there since we Herbert and I started this project in 2005, and we and I, however, last year's more me, making some workshops with teachers, parents, children, students around gaming, contents or questions that are asked by them that are important for their lives. So just individual workshop settings, also learning with digital games, or I will tell later. Okay, that's enough for now.
We love that kind of a start, and then we have Joerg here.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Joerg Hofstaetter. I am running ovos together with partners, and we are a digital design agency here in Vienna, about 35 people dedicated to harness the power of play for learning. So we create learning platforms both in the corporate sector as well as in the educational sector. And the current mission is to bring play more into the EdTech, the educational technology sector, and we're running many projects on that matter. And I think, as of the sake of financial literacy, we're also helping or creating financial learning platforms for the Swiss National Bank, the Erste Gruppe, as well as the Sparkasse. So, and I'm happy to share some things about that later.
And we are looking forward to that. But first, a little mention. We see you here in the present, but we also see you on the live stream. If you have any questions for today's panel participants, you can just write them and we will ask them later on, because there will be a Q&A session. Also for you here, so you will get the microphone if you put up a hand, but this will be later on. So let's start with the role of games in financial literacy. What is your take on it? Are games particularly effective in teaching economic and financial concepts? Why or why not?
Okay, I will start. I think games can do quite a lot of things, but when it comes to financial literacy, they're one part of teaching financial literacy, but they cannot do everything. So financial literacy, of course, means having, first of all, knowledge, information, but it also means you need to put the information, the knowledge you have into action, and you need motivation to do that. You need to have the courage maybe to do that. And of course, games can help you to try out things, as we all know, in a safe space. But part information, also if you have a look at research, there's not so much research, unfortunately, on games and financial literacy, but it cannot take over all the things. So it needs, which is good, maybe that's the reason why I, as a teacher, love games so much. They can't substitute or replace a teacher, they can just help teaching.
What is your take?
I think games are a wonderful tool to discuss or to make an awareness in financial literacy, because as we heard some minutes ago, Natalie told us how much money and how much time she's spending on one game. And I think this is just a point where you can start. Yeah, when I work with teachers, the first step, or not the first, but the step I try to reach in my workshop is you don't need a game to use games as a learning tool. Yeah, and this is when you really have realized this, you can work with digital games in schools because. If I start my workshops with teachers or students that are getting teachers, they always are like, oh, how cool, nowadays. For 10 years ago, it was like, oh, yeah. One also left my workshop when I started to work with games and teachers. He said, no, digital games in school, no. Today, there is an openness, but also like okay, it's cool. I have maybe some ideas, but how can I do this in school? There is the technical aspect, the cost aspect, which game should I take, I'm not used to play this game, how can I do it with so many kids, and so on. All the thoughts are always the same, yeah? And if I get them one step higher, like you can work with digital game as a content, yeah? You don't need the game. You can make, for example, a workshop around financial or like in-game purchases, yeah, and like tell us about it. Which games are you playing? Let's discuss about it. Let's discuss and let's have a look how much money is made by in-game purchases by the companies. Yeah, get an awareness for that. Then I then the people are on the right way, because then they realize you can use the themes, you can use games, and also take a content you like to work on, like for example money or financial literacy, or also another possibility like men and women, how they are shown in games, what are their roles, stereotypes, etc., gender topics or such things. Yeah, you can nearly work on every topic you like and use games as a tool. Why should you use games as a tool? Because the young people are then have your interest. You you have the interest of the young people, you know? Because when you say, hey, we are working with digital games, computer games, today in school, oh yeah, they are with you. They will discuss, they will share their ideas, yeah? And then you can create can make them reflect on it, get an awareness for it, and so on. You can take whatever topic you like and make it with digital games. You can work more or less practical with the digital games. You can, for example, the easiest way is to start just by asking, what are you playing? Why are you playing? How much are you playing? Like this slow starting. But when you have some experience, you also can make a real workshop. Also, let's make some or take also some YouTube videos, or let's make them create their own game, tell them a story, or other ideas were like telling something from the perspective of the main character of the theme, or taking Minecraft for thousands and thousands of ideas are popping up, yeah, when you think in this kind of way. But so also for sure you have the possibility to work on financial literacy with games. One last sentence. You know that this is more or less the whole thing I have to say, so you can have the rest of the time.
This is already a brainstorming session.
So sorry.
No. Love it.
The last thing, maybe, please show me with a sign, who knows the Böhmermann-Beitrag, Ingame-Käufe, Abzocke ohne Altersbeschränkung. Yes, and I think this is the perfect Zusammenfassung of what it's all about. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, from my perspective, we are creating learning content, so, and mostly for education. So when I talk about the projects or the experience we are like in school, starting at elementary school, but mostly secondary 1, secondary 2, meaning kids aged 10 to 18. So no adult literacy topic for us, although there's also a lot of work to do on that matter, obviously. If you talk to someone, for example, from Schuldenberatung, you know that this is a huge topic. So I think when it comes to what games can do, we can also, or should also distinguish whether we talk about financial knowledge or financially rigid or legit or good behavior. So if you talk about financial knowledge, it's rather easy. So you can have a story, you can gamify the knowledge with quizzes, and there are relatively clear and working models to both produce and assess financial knowledge. So that's the relatively easy part. When you move towards financial literacy behavior, oh boy, it gets really difficult. So starting, how do you do it? How do you measure it? Like, what's the long-term impact? So there are so many more questions than answers. But what we found out, or what we're exploring, is that games are really good, or game experience can be really helpful to tackle that issues. So, for example, this games, you can have autonomy when you try out things. You can, as Sonja said, you can fail in a safe space. This is super valuable when it comes to financial literacy. So what we try when we do a learning platform is not to create For elementary school, you do just linear storytelling and you have your learning transfer content and you assess it, easy. But if you talk about behavior, that's totally different. But then you have this beauty of nonlinear storytelling. Like every game designer knows it, but if you talk about financial literacy, you can create stories which branch and kids can play the stories, have different endings, and then reflect upon the outcomes and their decisions in a safe space. And I think that's really powerful in a way. And also, because I think, like one story was that we tried out this approach for a project. And we must not forget that financial literacy is a very stigmatized topic. It's maybe like a little bit like depression. You don't talk about it when you have debt. So it's like also socially, it's financial literacy is not only I have entrepreneurial spirit or so. That's one side, but also like what's debt and what is the power, what are the traps, like not only in-game advertising, but on many levels. And I think with games and storytelling and mechanics we know from video games, we can help to, especially teachers, and as I said, we are really in the education sector, to let them try out things at home, whether it's a flipped classroom or a project, and then have a discussion. And like one feedback I received from a teacher who played out the version of the game or the platform we did said, it was really interesting that I had a fruitful and lively discussion with students, starting with the learning nuggets we had from the different endings. And I think you can't really, it's really tough to measure the outcome, but it's really a win if teachers say, well, I could get something out of them and I could get them into a discussion. And I think that's a good outcome already, and games can be really, really helpful and fruitful and good to have these fruitful discussions.
I also gotta add, I think we love those kind of story examples, don't we? Do you agree in the audience? Clap a little bit if you agree with me. We love those stories from you. You don't have to say pardon in any way. These are the little cherries on top for us. And if I might add to Karina, you said you don't always need a game. Do you somehow also think of gamification in a way? If you don't need a whole game, but you can take parts of a game as gamification and teach lessons in that kind of way?
Okay, gamification. It's so hard to tell in English for me because I have my system and I have my presentation, the workshops, how I structure the different possibilities to work with games in school without having it, or sometimes having a game. But I have there are 4 possibilities in my point of view to work with the topic or to work with games, with or without games in a direct way. Discussions on a verbal way, just discussing or something, then in a maybe writing or having presentations in this kind of way. Then in the I just call it indirect praktisch. It's like you're working you're working with games, but you don't use the game as a game, like you're making researches on YouTube, taking some videos or some gameplay videos, or making internet researches and kind of the stuff. And the practical way is to use the game in the school setting in one or more versions or different games. Depends on what are you working on, but this is not the most important thing. I think, as I always tell the teachers, first think, what do you like to work on? What is your in which Fach?
Subject. Yeah.
You are the teacher, so are you in a German or geography or biology or I don't know teacher? Yeah, English, don't know. And which topic do you like to work on? So, and then you have the topic, and then you can think, how could I use games or around games to to make an interesting lesson with students. Yeah, so the benefit working with games, yeah, is that children will be interested because you're touching their daily lives. Yeah, you are not working on books that are really boring for them, and they have to read like Faust, and they don't like, and yeah, and so if you tell them, we are taking digital games, yeah, and we are working on some interesting topics, so they will cooperate, yeah, and you maybe also have some influence, some positive influence on their gaming behavior, yeah, like because they're getting aware that these, for example, in-game purchases are like really. Frech, I don't know in English. They are really eine freche Sache because it wasn't always like that, you know. We are old enough to know that in-game purchases are just some years old and they are growing and growing and growing because there is no legal control, yeah. It's a lack of legal control because it seems to be too difficult for the EU, or I don't know, to handle this problem because, I don't know, and they don't have, now there is no regulation, and so they're just getting more money and more money out of our pockets. And when you make it clear to the students that this is not that this is not a natural given thing that you have to pay and pay and pay. It was not always like that, and there are also games you don't have to pay for it, and that it's your decision that now, because there is a lack of legal control, now it's only your decision that can make stop this development, yeah, in this direction. You have to stand up to get your right back to pay once and not 100 times for your game. So maybe this could be a process of awareness making. Yeah. Also another topic, like in gender topics. Yeah, gender topic is a perfect topic. Maybe in English subject. Yeah, your English teacher. You could let them discuss in English, like I try now, in English about the different ways men and women are represented in games. In other media, you can also make cross-media stuff, like in television, like in books, like former times, stereotypes, roles, how they developed. Also in computer games, what was changed. We are testing so many games, and what I beobachtete. Observed is that there are much more games now with female characters, less provocative Darstellungen, I don't know, representations of women. Like you can identify better and are less harmfully affected from their over and over overwhelming representations, yeah? And so you could make this a topic in English and let them discuss. I think it would be very, very interesting for them. And also maybe let them show some pictures. Yeah, okay, then maybe it's not so... you have to be an open teacher, and if you are an open teacher, do this, and not... This is the point. Don't be too moralistic. Is it the word? Moralistic? Perfect. Don't be too moralistic, because then it's over. Yeah. Just let the people, the students, tell you what they experienced, and let them get aware and reflecting by themselves, and not like leading them hardly to one opinion. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And can you share success stories or examples of how games have positively impacted financial literacy?
I can't tell you any names of the games, but of course what games are good, we've already heard it, they give you experience. Yeah? So this is this kind of experiential learning, which is learning theory as well. So we learn basically from experience. So from being born, we make complete regular experiences, and we learn, so babies learn by experience. children learn by experience, and even we as adults learn by experience. And games can help you to make experiences not in real life, but in a virtual environment, and that's also how you can learn from games. However, there's this thing called the magic circle, that a lot of things stay in the game, and the transfer is not that easy to make it out of the game. That's also true, of course, for financial literacy. So that's what we said before. As you said, information and hard facts, that's quite easy because you can check and the game can repeat it, and you need to know your facts, but that does not mean that I can apply all the knowledge I've learned in a game in my real life. So that's the big problem we have generally when it comes to digital game-based learning, so that we need something to make sure it does not only stay in the game. So as we've already said, maybe, of course, games are a safe space, but if I'm somebody very shy, maybe I can trade with shares and try to buy and sell at the stock exchange in a game, but in real life, I would not even dare to do that because I'm not that kind of person. So, of course, in the game I might be good. I might earn a lot of money because I know how to read the figures the game presents to me. But in real life, I don't even try because I'm too afraid of doing that. So that's something that games cannot solve, probably. Yeah? So, but of course, they can help me get some experience which might be difficult to do in real life. So in real life, having maybe 1 million euro or whatever currency and to start from and maybe to make your own business, that's hard. Yeah, so who will give you just 1 million euro to, come on, try whatever?
Any business angels here, so?
Yeah, so maybe, but probably not. So, but in a game, and if you don't succeed, you start from scratch again. So that's not the problem, and you can have this experience, and then you can learn, okay, what did I do wrong the first time? Maybe let's try another strategy. So that's the good thing about games, but that does not mean if I'm good at a game that I'm good at real life as well. That's the problem.
Unfortunately. I would have been a mistress of the bow by now. Joerg, would you have a mind? Or we could also pose another question if you like.
Come up with a story, maybe, if you want. So maybe I would love to say our projects make a impact on this field, but I think one thing is that I don't know. It was some years before the pandemic, maybe 17, 18. I shared a blog entry on the market volume of in-app purchases to the vice director of the Swiss National Bank, who's like also the head of economics, who's like, we built a training platform. I said, well, that's quite a volume in numbers. We don't touch upon that in financial literacy, do we? Shouldn't we make that a topic? And he said, oh, okay, he wasn't aware of that, and then somehow they made a blog entry, and with the learning platform we will launch next year, in-app purchases will be part of that. Because usually, if like we have financial literacy, but it's about pocket money, it's about capital market, it's a buy or lease, and all these topics are important. But I think I want to just second to what you said. The knowledge about loot boxes is more important than the knowledge about capital market when it comes to financial literacy, I would claim. And I can add this with a little story. So I'm not only running a company, I'm also running 3 boys. Like now he's 17, but then when he was 10, they did play, of course, games. And at some point, my wife and me found these Google Play gift cards, used ones, somewhere in his flat. And it was like 25, 50 euros, like, and as it turned out, he was using his pocket money would not have been sufficient for make this kind of investments, but he spent, I think it was 150 euros on a mountain bike game. And I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, I just wanted to become better in the game. And this is also, like, I think really a topic, and it did not. I'm not broken because of this investment, and he's not either, luckily. But I think it was the best investment in financial literacy I could ever made, because he now is cured, A, and B, he has a younger brother who's like really telling him what is a good and what is a bad idea. And if you have kids, you know what you say as a parent is totally irrelevant. What the older brother says is totally relevant. So this is absolutely working. I'm not saying you should spend money on that, but we used this case then to make it a teachable moment, as one might call it. And I think it's super important.
Mm. And adding to your story, how do you think that those kind of games that teach about financial literacy are different in the sense of if you present it to adults or to children? What are the different?
Could I first make a statement?
Of course, anytime.
Please, because I think it's so relevant, as you said. Everything that is concerned with is connected with in-game purchases, loot boxes, digital games, is not aware by decision makers. Yeah, they are just not aware. Although there is so much money that is, that they make more money with in-game purchases than with the selling of the game. Yeah, and these are millions and millions of euros, and so there is no awareness. So we have to get them aware that there is a need of legal control for this money-making strategy, and it is a money-making strategy, a really freche, I don't know English,
Yeah, little devils in disguises.
Yes, it's not fair. It's just not fair. Yeah, and so I just want to add this that the decision makers maybe are not the a group of people that are aware of this problem. Yeah. And that's a problem, because we are talking about pocket money and other things when we talk about financial literacy, but we are not taking the view on the really relevant topics in children's life nowadays.
And do you think when we see games as tools of economic critique, can games be used effectively as tools for criticizing economic systems, now I have it, or practices? Do you think they can be used for that, like really with a critique voice? And would you have examples maybe?
I think, of course, they can be used that way. Yeah, so they're just a very, very old game, but still a favorite of mine. So it's maybe not as cool as Natalie's Cats and Soup. But it's the McDonald's video game who's kind of really criticizing all these big companies just wanting to make money. Of course, when you play the game, you can also play it just for you want to win the game and you want to make a lot of money. So without having a look at what it really criticizes, which again makes the need of someone who tells you what to look for and what these kind of things in the game stand for. But I think there are lots of examples of games that try to criticize also this kind of capitalistic view, or just other games like, if you take this War of Mine, yeah, so it really also plays around with this criticism of what happens to people, to normal people, to civilians when there is a war, when the big government decides to, and we're living in a world now with, unfortunately, lots of war. Yeah? And really what happens to normal people, not the war heroes, which we have in ego shooters or something like that, but really this kind of surviving, giving you a feeling of empathy, also for, and criticizing, of course. So games, I think, can be very good at making you aware of things, at creating empathy, at criticizing. But of course, that's like with a film, that is not the same to every person that watches the film. It is not the same to every player that plays the game. And sometimes when the hints are too subtle, you need someone to make you aware of that. Because if I'm not aware, like let's take the McDonald's video game again as an example. If I'm not aware of McDonald's being a very profit-oriented big company, then yeah, I just play around and say, okay, yeah, why not market things at children and doing this or that trick if I earn more money? If I don't know the background, then yeah, criticism does not really reach what it originally wants to reach.
I observed two developments, no, Entwicklungen. Yeah, developments.
Yeah, developments.
The last years there was an increase in apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic games, and also survival games, and also on the other hand, in like a relaxing game, just doing slow things, no winning, no losing,
Cats and
just
soups.
relax in a beautiful area and running around and just feel good. Everything is good, you cannot lose, the world is always happy, always good, always green. Yeah, these are the two worlds that are of games that are really increased. So the games that we know, because we are not testing ego shooters or something that are getting no recommendation of us. But in the field of the games we are assessing, there is this is my that was I observed that these two parts are increasing, and this shows also I think the mindset and the needs of the people today. Everyone is talking about our resources that are coming to an end, the destruction of our world. We're getting to the end. So, and on the other hand, the need of the people for freedom, for peace, for beauty, for safety, for beauty, and I think games always like are a mirror to the reality of feelings and needs of the people. People always play what they are thinking the world is about and what they are needing. Yeah. So today I think the very fast games are decreasing, just fast and action, and so maybe it's sometimes the slower games that's what the people need. And also these post-apocalyptic games, and the post-apocalyptic games very often have a capitalism critic inside. Yeah, when the characters are talking, or what you are erleben. Oh God, what you experience in the game. Is a direct or indirect criticism of how we are living. Yeah, and so I think for sure in many games there is a critique of economic system, of financial system. Yeah, but the question is, it depends on the person how much a person can get this out of the game, can realize that this is our system, yeah, that it's not just a game, but it's a critic to our system. It needs some knowledge, awareness before that game, or some pedagogical context, yeah, to be set it in and discussed and reflected. Otherwise, maybe the person will just think it's a nice game, yeah, and nothing else. And for sure, many simulation games are training to handle resources, yeah. But also, I don't know if there can just be a transfer to the real world. If you're good in handling the resources in this game, you're just good in handling the game mechanics. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are good in handling your own finances. So I don't know. What also always came to my mind, what would be very interesting, I don't know all what comes the next days, but what would be very interesting from a psychological side would be the psychological aspects that make a person handle or behave well in financial things or not. Yeah, there must be some studies about this. This would be very interesting because I think you should strengthen these Fähigkeiten, these
Capabilities.
skills then with your students and maybe set a focus on this, yeah, not just on knowledge but on these skills that make people more powerful in yeah, you know what I mean. Okay.
In extracting the benefits of the games, I think you meant.
No, in having a good way
What would it be in German?
yeah, das weiß ich, I don't know it.
Maybe you mean this financial well-being?
Yeah, how to handle your own financial daily life.
Yeah.
To be good in this, what skills do you need? There must be some studies on this on a psychological side. I think there must be. Yeah, this would be really, really interesting. So you could bring this in a context of gameplay, of pedagogical context. So this would be really, really interesting.
Thank you. Does anyone know the work of Panu Kalmi, the Finnish professor? Because he's the only researcher I would know. I'm not familiar with work, but I just stepped upon it recently, who did research on the topic of financial literacy taught by games. He's a Finnish professor somewhere, but I think if you want to, if you look for answers, we could maybe follow his research a little bit. So, but I don't know. Does
Maybe
anyone
it's in the
know
live
his
stream
work?
right now.
Okay, so maybe that is something to dig deeper into. But when I was looking for the answer of the question like System Greek via games, I was looking in the same category as Sonja did with subversive games. So I believe this is McDonald's is, I think, a very good example done by the mall industry, the Italian game designers, but also Sweatshop, which is, I think, similar to that, where you basically have to run a T-shirt production company somewhere, I believe it's Bangladesh, and you have to balance the needs of the clients, low price with the well-being of your workers, and spoiler, you can't, it just doesn't work. And I think this is a very good, in games, packed up system critique, where you don't have to rebuild or make a simulation of a system, but just unravel the problem, the systemic problem of a capitalistic or a financially broken system in order to put your finger into the wood and shed some light on it. So I think that is good. But also I think there's also example where the attempt of making a system critic game went terribly wrong. I think maybe the most famous one is the Monopoly. Do you know the story of the American researcher, a female researcher who's was an anti-monopoly researcher at the beginning of the 19th century, created a board game to show the negative effects of what happens when less people own too much, meaning being a monopoly, and and she sold, I think, the patent for the game for $500 in the 30s, and we know... No, that's not true?
No, she actually has the patent on it. She still has the patent on it. It was just the part that was copying the game and making it monopoly.
Ah, okay. So, but she sold the license for making the game?
No, neither.
So Wikipedia is wrong?
It was just plainly copied and sold as a branded game.
That makes it even worse.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing to add here. Thank you.
And how do you think that games can foster critical thinking about economic issues without oversimplifying them?
Yeah, I think what games are really good at basically is teaching things, teaching how to play a game. Because if a game is not good at teaching how to play the game, not a lot of people would play the game. Because I can remember when I was young, games came with a booklet where you really could read up how to play the game, what you have to do. Nowadays, nobody, I think, would even read I don't know, 1 page of things, so the game has to teach. And that's the same true when you have this kind of simulations. They start quite at an easy level, so quite often you have a tutorial, you get to know what you can do, and it's getting more and more difficult by adding more and more parts of a system step by step. And that's why they quite often start just take all these tycoon games. So where just at the beginning you are not allowed to do a lot of things, but then when you've managed that, you're allowed to do a bit more, and that's how they introduce you to a very, very complex system. So that's what I think we can learn from games as teachers, how to introduce things, how to make from the very simple to more complex ones. Because if you would start with a very complex simulation of an economic system, I think nobody would really, if you're not already an expert in that, nobody would normally play the game.
And enjoy it.
So I think it's a tricky question, but I think I tried to, also with our work, we tried to follow what Constance Steinkuhl, a very famous American researcher, once said, do not gamify learning, find the game in learning. So I think one way to not do it is to gamify financial education, because financial education is not fun. It's boring, basically. And if you ask a 12-year-old, you want to play a fun game on education games? No, I play for that instead. So I think one of the mistakes one could make, I believe, would be to try to gamify it or make it fun or make a simulation which aims to be fun. Because I think it's a serious topic, and kids understand serious topics if you take them seriously. So what we try to do is come up with a narration and really make use of the power of storytelling to create relatedness, from the player with a character. We all that very well works within games, and also does not only work with complex 3D characters where you don't have the budget for serious games ever, but also simplified characters, also illustrated characters, and then create stories where you can wrap around decisions which have an impact. Whatever that can be, there are plenty ideas and opportunities for that. But then have a serious discussion about that. And that can be analog, that can be digitally, but I think we always failed in trying to make a simulation in a game about the complex system of a simulation of the financial strategy or so. But we lost pitches, many pitches, because we said that's not possible for some of this budget, because we can't build you I don't know, a civilization for, I don't know, a 5-digit amount of euro. But I think it's not important to make it too complex or too complicated from the game design methodology, but to really work on a relatedness and autonomy, and really stories the kids can relate to and have some learnings, obvious or not so obvious, maybe hidden within, you can reflect, as you said, and learn from.
Can I just add some words to it, because I think it's very, very relevant what you said. And I think one aspect that we should never forget is that learning just can happen if there is a personal connection that is a trustful and respecting connection between the people that are learning from each other. And I think this is really important, that you as a teacher or adult or something else are always aware that that you have the mindset that both sides are learning. Yeah, and not just I'm telling you what to do and I know the right way and you just learn from me. And because when you have this mindset, children will not like to learn from you. If you're open, if you like to hear what they tell you from their lives, if you take them seriously, if you give them a feeling of being wanted, being liked by you, then they will open themselves and they will not stop telling you from their lives, because they are not used to. They are just not used to be wanted, to tell their experiences, tell what they think, yeah? And so you get them to be aware to learn. And what did I wanted to say? Let me just think. Yeah, this connection and learning, and I just wanted to add something. Maybe it comes later.
Yeah, maybe you can pick it up again. And when talking about children or students or adults, what is the difference in the age groups that you feel when using those kind of serious games for them? Because we already heard we need some kind of guidance, some kind of guiding hand. How would you see it for the different age groups?
I think the most important is always to find a context that's near to their lives. Yeah, so I can't teach primary school children about how the stock exchange works. So that's even not possible for secondary, yeah, because it's so far away from their lives. Yeah, but of course, if you try to, okay, you want to earn some money or to save some money for buying this new toy you have seen. So that's something they can relate to in primary school. So I think that's always very important, and the younger the learners are, the more important it is to have a connection. Because that's also something we know from research, that games work better with taking something you do in the game out of you if you have a personal relation, or if this is something you also already experienced in real life. So then you can kind of break this magic circle and take some things out. But if there is kind of no connection, then it's really hard. And as I said, the younger the learners, the more important it is.
But we also need that kind of, I might add, the kind of guidance for the adults.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Because otherwise, yeah, as I said, you can play any kind of game without doing the thing maybe the game designer intended you to do or to think about. Yeah, so I know, also to add a story, I think I heard it at a conference once that somebody played I think it was a Japanese role-playing game without knowing any Japanese. Just by trying out things and getting through and knowing how these role-playing games work. So you can't beat a game system without kind of doing what the designer basically intended. And if you have somebody who guides you, who kind of points the fingers at the things you should really realize in the game, then you can't kind of take another direction.
It came back into my mind what I just wanted to add, and I think it's not so far away from what you just told. Getting back to this connection between adults and children or people that are into teaching context or learning context. Sometimes teachers or adults have the fear that they don't know enough about digital games to make some workshops or something with their students. But they should not be afraid, I think, because one of the interesting things could also be to make a role change or a role switch between students and teachers, to just say to them, okay, let's try it out. Now you are the experts in the theme. I'm not. I just want to learn from you. Just tell me about the thing you know. Yeah. I'm interested in digital games. I don't know much about it, but let me get into this world. You are the expert now. So this gives students the possibility to feel
empowerment.
That's an empowerment, yeah. And as you know, Selbstwert is one of the most important things in a children's life, yeah, to get a powerful way of living. And if you give them the expert role and be open for what they say, you just do a step in the right direction.
can very much agree and second to that. So I think with target groups, of course, it's the topic, it's the field. For 6 to 10 years old, it's to our experience relatively easy making games as long as they're shiny and have a certain quality. They will play it. That's fine. It's to my personal experience, it changes a lot when they're getting 10, 9, 11, when they're getting to play other games, and there's so much more critique about it, and they will put you right in the face if they don't like something, a game or whatever. So that's clear. And I think for 16 to 18, we did, for example, make a financial literacy game on entrepreneurial skills, where it was not a game, but it was actually just processing the business model canvas, from the Swiss researcher. I mean, everybody, I think, knows the book, what you do when you found a company. And we just had to make the process and pack a story and add interaction along this process, because it was so constructivistic that if you would hypothetically found a startup, what would you do? You don't need to gamify that. So the process in itself is so constructivistic that it's fun. Same with Minecraft. My specific learning, like the last years, was we always thought it's enough to make good games or make nice games kids like, and we had very much the target group in mind. But we must not forget the teachers. You're obviously a very good teacher if you have this conversation. But we sometimes had platforms where we thought that it's actually a meaningful experience for kids, but we forgot about the role of the teacher. If they don't find it easy to use, if they don't find it interesting, because there's no learning without the teacher. In school, I'm talking about school. They are the ones who start the transfer. They are the ones who build the bridges. They are the ones who connect the dots. So every learning game, whatever methodology, mechanics we use, must not forget the role of the teacher and make their life easier and not harder if we want them to have an impact. So that is. So for example, for the last year, we spent, I don't know, I forgot, I don't want to remember how many hours to create a teacher dashboard on an analytics on a learning platform. And we had so many conversations, but that was so important because we didn't understand what they need in the first place. And I think learning games need to, especially in the educational context, I think we're talking a lot about the educational context. I cannot talk about the adult literacy context a lot, but we need to think about the teachers first, I think, if we want to have an impact.
Can I just add something? Yeah, to take the fear away from them. It's important to get them an access to the games. And I think I said the wrong word before. I think Selbstwert, but I meant Selbstwirksamkeit. It's some aspect of Selbstwert, but Selbstwirksamkeit is one of the most important things for a self-competent way of life, and if you give them the role of the expert, they can feel selbstwirksam, and this is a thing you should think about in every teaching or learning context with children. How can you feel them selbstwirksam? I think this is a very, really important thing, and give them room to explore. I think one of the main aspects why digital games are so interesting for children and young people nowadays is because the public rooms for experiences are getting smaller and smaller. They cannot try out themselves, and so they have to switch to digital rooms to try out themselves. We need to get them back some space in public room, to feel free to act like they want, like in the woods former times, or on the landscape, where they just can run around and build their tree houses and nobody's watching, like nowadays in their computer games.
And now would finally be the time to take questions, also from our wonderful audience and from the live stream.